Okay, so I guess you probably already guessed we're going to talk a little bit about knives. I sometimes do product reviews on different items, and I've done a number of knife reviews, one of which was called my 10 best knives, and one was best EDC knife. And a couple of these knives have been featured in some of those videos. One that has not been featured is this brand new unit here. This is the Spyderco Stretch. Some call it the Stretch 2. And this I have yet to feature because I just received this a little over a week ago. And it's a very interesting knife. And the reason I have these other knives in the picture is I'm going to be using them as references for size comparisons and other comparisons throughout the video. So for now, let's just get these out of the way. And let's focus on the Stretch 2. And by the way, speaking of focus, this is a Sony NEX 7 with a Carl Zeiss 24mm f1.8 lens is the camera that I'm using right now. So to deploy this, a lot of people are able to kind of flick these open. I have to kind of do it with my finger on it the whole time. Of course, I'm reaching around the camera now, so it's a little bit trickier than it would be normally anyhow. But it deploys very quickly. I've loosened this pivot screw a little bit so that now I can just tap it like that and let gravity kind of take it down, and I can close it. I did the same thing with my Delica, the green-handled knife that was in the picture earlier, and it works great. Still, lockup is still very tight, no wiggle whatsoever. So basically when these come in the mail, generally you just loosen this just a little bit until you get it so that you can really deploy it fast and close it with one hand like that. You'll notice the pocket clip here, I wouldn't call it high polished, but I did take the black paint off. I just used a steel wool pad and just kind of polished it until I got it the way I wanted it. It's kind of almost like a satin finish, and you can see a little bit of the black ink is still right in there. But it looks fine. It looks kind of, makes it like almost like an antiqued look. I didn't like the black because this is a very dark green handle, and it is very dark green. But the black I felt didn't look as good with the blade all this color and the fasteners all shiny stainless steel. I just didn't think the black looked good with it. The other thing that I did is, this is a paracord. I took the guts out of the 550 paracord and then just put a little lanyard on here. This makes it very trim, very flat to the knife, which is kind of a thin knife to start with, which is nice. And I didn't want to make it real thick with a real thick lanyard the way these go on. See, with the Chris Reeves knife, the way the lanyard goes on, it doesn't make the knife any thicker. But with this one, the way it goes on, it would make the knife thicker, except for the fact that I gutted it and it's laying flat. So a lot of people on a knife this size would not use a lanyard anyway. I could go either way on it. The Delica being smaller, I definitely did not, focusing on that, I definitely did not go with a lanyard on this one. And the Delica again, well, of course my finger slip, deploys like this, and then I can close it like so. So again, not a knife that I generally flick open. People do, but I generally open it with just one thumb movement like this. To each their own. Now, to contrast that, on this knife, I generally, if I'm going to deploy it quickly, I generally flick it like so. Okay? And that's the way I open this one. Now, the reason I have the Chris Reeves tie lock here in play is the size of the blade. And I want to do this comparison right now. For the Spyderco, and actually to see the size, I really need to put them like this so that the orientation is correct. And let me go like this so we can see the handles. Well, you can't quite see them all. You can almost see the whole thing. Basically what we've got here is we've got a much larger handle to knife blade ratio on the Spyderco, which for an EDC knife, now for this particular Spyderco, by the way, the handle to blade ratio is very good. So this is going to be one of the best you're going to find in a Spyderco as far as the blade to handle ratio. The blade is actually pretty big. But the Chris Reeves knife, in this case the Tylock, its blade to handle ratio is incredible. The handle is about the same length as the blade. You get a lot of blade on this knife for the size knife that you end up with when it's folded and closed. And I'm going to compare the cutting, just the cutting surfaces here. And you can see they are almost the same. The Spyderco has just a little bit more cutting edge to it than the Tylock. Yet, when I close these two knives, look at the size difference. Okay, they are lined up, let's see here. They're lined up about exact at the top. And you can see that the Spyderco is significantly longer and significantly wider left to right. So if that matters to you, it's something to think about. They're close enough to the same weight that weight is not really an issue. This one I think is about 3 ounces. I think this one's 3.4. They're so close in the weight category that the weight is not really a big issue. But for an EDC, if you want to carry something really compact, see how narrow this knife is? Really compact, that has a good sized blade, it's pretty hard to beat the Tylock. Now it's expensive, $475 most places. That's very expensive for a knife. But I'll tell you what, in my opinion, it's an awesome knife. And I've got a whole separate review on this knife, so check it out. But getting back to the Spyderco, this is super steel. It's been referred to as super steel. It is, let me see if I can read it here, ZDP 189 steel. And I don't know how close this camera will focus. I doubt you'll be able to read that. But from all reviews, a very hard steel, holds its edge surprisingly well, amazingly well. And I can tell you this thing was razor sharp out of the box. At least sharp enough, sharper than any knife I've ever gotten out of the box. And the only downside potentially of this steel is I've been told that it will rust if exposed to salt water, salt air, things like this because of the high carbon content. But a very nice knife for the, I will say the feel in the hand is superb. The ergonomics are superb. This ramp here and the jimping, superb. But, and again, I hate to get back to the Tylock. The Tylock also feels great in the hand. Feels great in the hand. Can hold it several ways. Can hold it with a reverse grip, like so. Now, could you force this into a tactical roll? I think you could. Absolutely, I think you could. Certainly you can with the Spyderco, maybe a little more so. So if your hunt is for a knife that can double as a tactical knife, as well as EDC, very versatile knife. Of the Spydercos that I have, I would say this is the most versatile from a size standpoint. It's not too big, not too small, lightweight, nice clip. But you know, again, I hate to keep going back to the Tylock, but I'm using this as my reference super EDC knife. I really like this clip. Some people have railed on it, but I really like the way you can release the tension on it by just pushing here and pull it right out of your pocket without putting stress on your pocket. Yet when you let go and release the tension, it holds surprisingly well. So I really like that clip design, and it rides nice and deep, plenty deep enough. I like the way the lanyard is integrated into here. A lot of things to like about this knife. Check out my review on it. Back to the Spydercos. Now, some people would say the Delica is the ideal EDC for a Spyderco. If you like a very small, lightweight knife, when I say very small, some people would say this is just small, but to me, it's significantly smaller. Let's look at the blades. The blades together like this. You can see a significant difference in the size of the blade, the size of the cutting surface. But again, if you want something, an EDC knife is not any good at all if it's not in your pocket. If you don't have the knife with you, then it's useless. So if you need something that's on the smaller side so that you have it in your pocket at all times, if this knife is just too big for you, if you're not going to carry it, go with the Delica. My gosh, this disappears in your pocket. You won't even know you have it. It's so feather light, so compact, beautiful, beautiful EDC knife. Another knife option that has been in my 10 best knives, the Sog Flash. And you can see this has been used a lot. It's got a bunch of glue all over the blade. Very lightweight, about the same weight as the Spyderco, to my liking, maybe even lighter, a little lighter. About the same amount of cutting surface. You can see they're very similar handles. Another really good lightweight option. But this, I feel, is a higher quality knife, much better steel. Of course, it's going to be around a little over $100. This one's going to be more like $50 or $60. So that's my look at the Stretch. Stretch 2, some people call it. And this one's in dark green. Almost looks like black, but it's a really classy looking, very, very dark green. Kind of like that in some ways, better than a black. It makes it something a little different. Of course, I really like the Delica in this brighter green color. I love that color as well. So, as always, a lot of options when it comes to these beautiful EDC knives. Share your comments. What do you think? What knife do you carry? What do you think about the knives I've shown? Thanks for watching.